So the first thing that we're going to need to do is open up our poker tracker database. And I've got one here. And you want to set your database to the one that you're going to play on. So I've got a whole list of databases here, and I'm going to choose the one with all the party poker hands on. Just a note, I don't play at party poker. I had these hands when running a test for Online Poker Watchdog. They're hands that have come from PTR. But I wouldn't play at party poker either. I don't recommend it. There's been a recent scandal of collusion there, but so we're just using this as an example. So we've got our database with the one that we've got the hands on. Then we can open TableScan Turbo. Okay, so TableScan Turbo is here, and if I choose Poker Site, Party Poker, and I choose the database, and you've got to set the database so it's the same one as your poker tracker database. Okay, and once you've done that, then you can set the games to the games that you want to play. Okay, the other thing that you'll need to do is you'll need to open up the poker client. So I've got Party Poker open here, and I've set the filters to 25 cent, 50 cent tables, and we're going to look at 25 cent, 50 cent full ring tables in TableScan Turbo. Now we've configured some statistics here. We've got definitions of fish, okay, and you can see for full ring tables, these have kind of come as standard. I might have adjusted them a little bit, but a clownfish is someone who's got a VPIP between 50 and 100. A blue tang is somebody who's got a VPIP of between 30 and 100, and a pre-flop raise percentage between 0 and 12. So they don't raise enough. They're a bit passive. They're not quite as loose as the clownfish. A blowfish is just another loose player, but not as loose as the clownfish. A flounder is someone that's really tight passive. They only VPIP 13 to 100 and pre-flop raise 0 to 4. And starfish isn't configured now. So if anybody has those statistics, they'll show up in our scan. So without further ado, we'll scan the tables just by hitting scan in the top right, and you can see that players start appearing here, and it takes a few seconds to go through, but it's pretty fast really. And we've got some stats on players already coming up. You can see this column is very important in that it tells us how much the player has won, and this column is important because it tells us how many hands they've played. So we can see as players come through, oh, we've got a couple of fish appearing here. You can see the little fish symbol. Both these players, Vinvong and Proteus, have lost money. We've got 277 hands on Vinvong and 928 on Proteus. They've both lost quite a lot of money for those hands, and they're showing up because their stats are pretty poor. Oh, we've got another one, Yogi, has also lost money, and you can see there's such a wide gap. They're not raising enough. Proteus here is pre-flop raise less than 1 in 1,000 hands, so he never raises. He just limps in, or he raises probably with ace or something like that, just not even all the time. But these would be good players to start with. You can see there's another player here that has some really bad stats, but there aren't enough hands in them. I've set it so that there's a minimum number of hands of 150 before we can go to those stats, before we can use those stats for the fish definitions. So they won't necessarily be that accurate at just 100 hands. We can also scroll down here. You've got someone who's got quite good stats. Not great actually. There's a bit too much of a gap between their VP and the pre-flop raise, but they've lost a lot of money there, nearly 800 bucks, and that's that they could be a good player to play against as well. So you can see the many ways that you can use this, but let's have a look at some of these players. So let's click on Proteus, this player, and you can see that there he's at this table here. So if we double click there on that, the table pops up and we can join the waitlist on the table if we want to. Easy as that. Okay, we'll not join the waitlist anyway. We'll close that table, and we'll go back to our TableScan Turbo. What I'd like to look at now is some other things you can do with it. So, for example, if we look down at certain players that we had, for example, this Linda Brown player, we could, if we right-click on them, you get a lot of choices, yeah? And one of them is Add Buddy. So they're a weak player, but they're not turning up on our fish list. Or if you just happen to be playing against a player that you find is really weak, you can click on it and add them as a buddy. And you can see there's a little happy face has appeared beside Linda Brown there. And that means that they'll be easy to find as well next time you come across them. Also, we could add this guy as a buddy. Heike Fans. Right click and add buddy. Okay. And they're now appearing there too. And if we scroll down a bit more, wow, right, this is quite good because we've got someone here who's played 35,000 hands and has won. They've won 300 bucks, so they're a good player. We don't really want to be playing against them, so you can right click and add regular, and you can see against their name if we scroll up, or scroll right down actually, you can see they get the little shark symbol against their name, and on that table you can see the little shark symbol. So that's players that you want to avoid as well. And that way you can refine this as you do. Okay, just a note on this as well. The reason I've got all these stats and all these hands is because I've got a database with 1 million party poker hands on it due to those tests that I ran at Online Poker Watchdog. TableScan Turbo really works best if you've got a lot of information, if you've got a lot of hands on people. You can use it without without a lot of hand histories from the games that you're playing, and you can use it sort of the same way then that you would use the selection in the poker sites, but in a sort of more ordered way. So it'll shuffle things up and it shows colors and things like that as well. So it can be a bit easier. But the real bonus comes if you've got a lot of information on the players that you're playing.